Hello everyone, it's Zigzag here, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be giving you guys a bunch of short definitions for the types of terms and phrases you hear around the GeoGuessr circles. I've been playing GeoGuessr for years, and have been watching GeoGuessr videos for years, and there are a bunch of different little terms, some of which you're going to know, some of which you won't, which are really useful for understanding what's actually going on when people are talking about GeoGuessr. I've divided these phrases into four main categories. The first one's going to be in-game stuff, the stuff to do with GeoGuessr itself. Then we're going to talk about meta stuff, the stuff that the community's figured out to do with the Google coverage. Then we'll talk about specific terminology, and finally we'll talk about country shorthands. So let's talk about some of the in-game terminology. The first one is one you've probably heard of, NMPZ. It stands for no moving, panning, or zooming. Now, the traditional way to play GeoGuessr is to move around using the arrows to find clues and slowly work out where you are. However, as the game progressed, people realized that they could put limits on themselves to give themselves more of a challenge, and hence, the no moving, panning, or zooming game mode was born. In this game mode, you stand completely still, and it's as if you're looking at a photo without any other clues than what you see right before you. The game mode is notoriously difficult and brings even the strongest players to their knees. Another common acronym to hear is ADW. It stands for A Diverse World and is a map created by the aptly named Mapper from France. It's commonly understood to be a better alternative to the original world map created by the GeoGuessr devs, and is where GeoGuessr players benchmark their skills. The GeoGuessr community has decided upon the word bollard to describe the poles placed on the side of roads to prevent crashes. Bollards are particularly useful in GeoGuessr because they're often country or region specific, thereby allowing players to know the country they're in with a simple glance of the roadside. To 5k around means to get the highest possible score. The distance required for a 5k depends on the map, but on a world map, you need to be within about 200 meters from the actual location to get those 5,000 points. Because GeoGuessr games last for 5 rounds, a 25k is the perfect 5 rounds in a row of 5k, and is a highly elusive feat to get on a world map. A location refers to a specific GeoGuessr round. Each GeoGuessr map has a certain number of locations, and thus, it's possible to get repeat locations, which is why maps with a greater number of locations are often preferred to those with fewer. A seed refers to the 5 randomly generated locations in a GeoGuessr game. Thus, people often talk about hard seeds, easy seeds, interesting seeds, and boring seeds. Now let's talk about one of GeoGuessr's biggest buzzwords, and it's meta. Meta stands for most effective tactics available. In the context of GeoGuessr, this refers to any of the fingerprints left by the Google team when they were covering a certain location. There are literally hundreds of Google camera related hints for GeoGuessr. The most prominent and easy to use of these are the Google cars and the camera generations. While in some countries a Google car is completely blurred out, in others, for example Kenya, as you can see, the car is completely there to be seen. Because Kenya is the only country to have this Google car, it becomes the most effective tactic available for identifying Kenya. Roof racks can be seen in many of the countries around the world, and become the easiest way to identify countries that otherwise would have been very difficult. For this reason, the use of Google Meta in GeoGuessr is quite contentious, and it has many detractors. Another common meta in GeoGuessr is camera generations. Google has been creating Street View images since 2007, and thus there have been several upgrades to the camera technology since that time. The Google cameras tend to be separated into 4 camera generations. The first of these is Generation 1, which is unfondly known as Potato Cam. It lasted from 2007 to 2009. In 2008, Generation 2 was introduced, and it lasted till 2011. Then, from 2011 to 2019, Generation 3 was used. In 2017, Generation 4 was introduced. All 3 of these generations look at least decent, but they are very distinguishable when you know the difference. For example, Generation 2 has a wide blur at the bottom and a halo in the sky, and Generation 4 looks similar to Generation 3, but is much more saturated and a higher resolution. I've covered the difference between these generations in another video. Suffice to say that camera generations can be very useful for determining where you are, provided that you know what areas were covered and when. You may have noticed my use of the word coverage. Coverage refers to the extent to which Google cars have taken footage of a certain area. For example, France has a lot of coverage, Turkey has a medium amount of coverage, and Kazakhstan has no coverage. For privacy reasons, countries like Japan and Switzerland use a low camera, which, like many other meta-clues, makes both countries very distinguishable. There are many other quirks of Google coverage. For example, some cars have antennas, long, short, or stubby. Sometimes they would do coverage during the winter, where most coverage is during the summer. Autumn and winter coverage are very common in some countries. There's also splashover coverage, which is where the Google car, which is covering one country, just enters the border of another country and takes photos in there. And the problem with this is, for country streaks, that you can end your country streak with a Google car that shouldn't be in that country, or in a country that is not otherwise covered by Google. An example here is in Liechtenstein. One of the most famous and humorous examples of meta in GeoGuessr are the sky rifts, which are found in Albania and Montenegro and Senegal. These sky rifts just appear to be two massive glitches in the sky, and as you can see, they are quite distinct and only found in those three countries. Trekker refers to a mountable Google camera that, instead of being on a car, can be worn on someone's back or taken onto a boat, and is used to cover obscure locations. Some Trekker footage has become infamous in the GeoGuess community, such as the AK-47 man on Mount Elgon in Uganda, or the thousands of birds in the Midway Atoll belonging to the USA. Follow cars can be found in Tunisia and Nigeria. They drive behind the Google car and are sent by the government. Many of those in the community who have some objection to Google metas in GeoGuessr use the no car, no compass script. Because it blocks out the Google car and any antennas, it is a more pure way to play GeoGuessr in some people's opinions. Now let's move on to some more specific terminology surrounding the culture of GeoGuessr. To plonk is to make a really quick guess that you by no means expect to be exactly correct. You have not got all the necessary information to get a correct answer, and so you just randomly put it where you think it's most likely to be. To pinpoint is to attempt to get 5,000 points on the round. It involves getting some pieces of specific information that allow you to come together and to work out exactly where the round is. Likewise, people commonly talk about rounds being pinpointable. A pinpointable or 5Kable round is a round that contains the necessary information for one to get a 5K score. However, this does not mean that one will necessarily be able to do so, merely that the information is there and could be used. To hedge is a word borrowed from finance, in which one proverbially puts their eggs in both baskets. In GeoGuessr, this means that if one thinks the round could be in France, but it could be in Poland, one might choose to put their guess in Germany, thus getting the best of both worlds, however not being able to get a full score. Pog factor is a term often used by streamers to describe a guess that defies the odds and would seem illogical in a non-entertainment or competitive context. The Chad move refers to a cheeky exploit in the country battle royale mode. In the Chad move, once one has identified that the country at hand is Romania, one then goes and guesses Chad. Chad and Romania share a nearly identical flag. Thus, when people go to guess Romania, when they figure out that it is Romania, they will see that Romania is part of the incorrect guesses and be discouraged from guessing Romania itself. This technique can be used with a host of other countries, including Ireland and the Ivory Coast, and Svalbard and Norway. If we're talking about GeoGuessr culture, we simply have to talk about GeoWizard. GeoWizard is a YouTuber from Britain, and he has almost 50 times more subscribers than any other GeoGuessr YouTuber. Among other things, he's known for popularizing insane guesses compilations, and also for saying "get in" with a massive fist pump of the air when he gets a good guess. When I used to watch GeoWizard before I really understood competitive GeoGuessr, one of the things I didn't understand was using the sun's position to determine which hemisphere you're in. This trick sounds fancy, but in reality it's quite simple. You use the compass in the bottom left, and if the sun points to north, then you are likely in the southern hemisphere, and if the sun points to the south, then you're likely in the northern hemisphere. Quite a simple trick, but quite effective. Okay, let's talk about some of the more iconic GeoGuessr clues then. You'll commonly hear about the Colombian cross, a cross found on the back of Colombian road signs. Holy poles, found in a number of Eastern European countries. Sectioned poles, particularly in Brazil. Ladder poles in Europe. And the classic Ghana tape. People also like to joke about countries that are particularly nationalistic and display their flags everywhere. So you've got the USA with their constant flagpoles. You've got Turkey, Thailand, and Tunisia, amongst others. People also often joke about this tiny subdivision in the Czech Republic called Horní Police, for obvious reasons. Bonk. Okay, finally I'll quickly mention some country abbreviations that are commonly used by GeoGuessr players. So, the most classic is Blurmany for Germany, and that is because of the privacy laws in Germany, meaning that many buildings have to be blurred out by Google Maps. Next, there's Arge for Argentina, Philly for the Philippines, Sri for Sri Lanka, Cambo for Cambodia, ZA or ZA for South Africa, CZ for Czechia, and Scandi for Scandinavia. A number are obvious, but you definitely hear people saying these quite a bit. Well, that's it for the video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I have a number of ideas of other parts of GeoGuessr culture and other terminology that I could include in a part 2, so let me know if you want that. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.